What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios for another week of building K-Tone and Moidia in Lego. This week I have big plans. I hope to completely finish up the dark bluish gray pads and get as much of the cables done as possible so I can really finish up that section. The reason I want to do this is because once I get those areas done, I can really start on the city. I don't have to, keep doing rock work as much because anything above where the dark bluish gray pads are is just going to be purely aesthetic, just for the design and look of the MOC. It's not going to be structural, supporting anything at all. So once I have those two parts in, I can really take a break from that boring rock work and pad stuff and start working on the city, which obviously is going to be like the main attraction for this MOC. Those cliffs are merely there to hold up what's going to be kind of the main scene. So I'm really excited to get working on that. I do have a lot more motivation to work on the MOC, which is always good. And I think that's because I'm transitioning away from more repetitive, boring techniques to fun, more complicated stuff like seeing how to hold up a city, creating giant cables which will hold up the city, creating stuff that can kind of bend and twist and all that good stuff. Anyways, should be an exciting week and it's time to get building. I'm going to start out this week by getting this rock work all built up to closer to the same height as the pad. That way I can continue putting filler brick behind the pad and have it all interconnected, because if I just do one chunk of filler brick behind the pad and then not have it really connected to the rest of the rock work, I feel like that'll cause some big fault lines and weak points in the MOC. So just going to do some more rock work. You guys know what it is, nothing too crazy here. And then that way, once I do that, I can finish off that top part of the pad and have it completely done. I'm going to be very excited to have the pad finished. That way I can move on to something else and start designing the city and what's going to be going up above the pads as far as like rock work and Easter eggs or rooms or bases or stuff like that go. So here's a look at what I got done. You can see that center part is the highest up. I wanted to get the entire pad finished. I did run out of these dark bluish gray cheese slopes. Those are going to go up the side and then across the entire front section. So that's why I just studded off. But I've started on the rock wall up above that. I think it looks all right. I don't know. The pad itself is rather plain, but I honestly don't know what else I would have really done to it. Also, I've got a lamp right behind me, so sorry if the shadows are kind of annoying. But I think it looks all right for the most part. I wanted to get this side all done so that I can go start on the other side. I am finishing up a little bit of the rock work on both sides. You can see I'm building up over there. Over here is kind of low, and you may be wondering why, and that's because I have something special planned for right here. But we'll get into that later, maybe next week or the end of this episode. Got a lot of filler brick put in back here. All of that yellow is what I have done today. You can see I've strengthened up these supports. They run all the way to basically the top of the rock work. That's pretty much all I have to show you. I was actually thinking about making this pad a little bit taller, but I decided to end it right there. So if it looks stupid, I'll take this part off and build up a little bit higher. But I think so far it looks all right. So probably what I'm going to do next, once I'm finished with this rock work, is jump over here to this very neglected second cliff. I got to get a lot of work done on this side because I want to start stress testing the cables to see how much weight they can hold. I don't have enough pieces for all 4 cables for each side, but I should have enough. But what I'm planning on doing is taking these top cables off and putting them in over here. That way I can start to at least test and see how much 2 of those would be able to hold. Luckily, I have a pretty big haul coming in with some more parts for the cables, so I'm hoping this side should come together pretty quickly. I almost forgot to show you guys this. So this is one of the problems from building most of the MOC from the backside of it. I can't really see too well what's going on in the front because it's hard to build this direction because I have to be able to put the filler brick in. So sometimes I'll come back and forth and check on it, but there'll be these long periods where I'm kind of just working on one section or the other. And you can see right here, a little piece of filler brick from back here is poking through. And you can see it right there. It's just little things like that that I don't notice. You'll probably actually see a few others scattered throughout the MOC. I don't want to point them out because then you'll notice them every time. But just wanted to show you guys that because I do it a lot and it drives me crazy, especially because this one's pretty far down. So I'm going to have to take up all of this brick over here, maybe even some of that, just to get down to where that one is. Pull it out, put a tan one in and rebuild all of that. This is just one of the unfortunate things about building such a large MOC is, there's no easy way to get access to all of the MOC. You can see right here, here's another thing that happens is I'll just forget to put a brick in behind another brick, so there'll be a little gap right there. That's not as bad because it just looks like, some kind of like little cave in the cliffs, but it still doesn't look like it should be there. You'd think after doing this much rock work, I wouldn't make that mistake as much as I do. All right, it's haul time. Dump all these parts out. Not the biggest of hauls here, but I do have 3 more packages on the way, so got a lot of reinforcements coming in. Got some of the usual suspects. We've got some dark tan wedge plates, 1x1s. The wedge plates are actually for these cliff pieces. I'm starting to run out of the wedge plates that kind of add texturing on the front of the cliff faces. And then looks like I've got, this is the same bag that I was already holding. I got some more ball joints, which is very nice because I am basically out of them. This is the entirety of my ball joint and socket collection, and I still need to complete this entire other side. So I'm still going to need a lot more of those, unfortunately, but that should get me through the week. And we've got some more random bricks in here, some olive green, some dark bluish gray cheese slopes. I'm going to need so many of these because I initially was not planning on running cheese slopes across the top of this, but I started building the rock work directly on top of it, and it just didn't look very good. I felt like it needed that little slope back into the rock work to make it look better. So that was a little change of plans there. And then I got 260 of these light bluish gray masonry bricks. I'm sure you guys can guess what those are for, my castle projects. So that's pretty much everything for the haul. Kind of time to show you guys what I got done on the mountains. So over here is basically done as far as this pad area goes, minus those cheese slopes, and then I've already started to do some brickwork, some rock work up here on top above that. Main thing I wanted to show you guys though was over here. I got a ton of work done. I went hard and finished this entire pad section. I was tired of just having little bits done, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna finish this all off in one fell swoop. So I did that, and unfortunately I don't have very many links to put over here, but I did put in where they're going to be, and then this is where these smaller supporting links are going to be. I used up all the rest of my filler brick, which is literally insane because I bought 800. So time to get back on to Bricklink and find another store that has a bunch of filler brick for cheap. But you can see this back here is looking mighty strong. Really, I think this is all so well connected that what's going to happen is if this gets too heavy, it's probably going to pull up this back wall right here. But this whole thing is really heavy. I don't know if you guys realize how big this is. It weighs a lot. So this itself is going to act as a pretty good weight that's going to hold down each end of the bridge and allow it to just kind of hang here without pulling these pads apart or without tipping these cliffs in. So I'm really excited to see how much weight these bad boys can hold. What I'm going to do next is actually take some of these links off and put them over here and create a homemade little kind of impromptu bridge just to start testing weights and see how much these chains can hold. Well, here it is, guys, the finished testing bridge. Got it all built on stream. I even tested it out a few times, and there's nothing fancy. You can see the cables are basically just connected to this long section of plate, and the way I went about constructing the plate, this bridge, was I took a layer of plate, connected them all together, and then I stuck a 2x layer of brick underneath that and up above it. I did that to make this whole thing rigid because the plate was super bendy and flexible, obviously, because it was so thin. But the 2 layers of brick really helped make it more rigid, and then this layer on top was just icing on the cake there to make it even stronger. And then this also gave me a nice wide platform to be able to set stuff on, because obviously if I was setting it on this, tip off one way or the other. So pretty happy with how this looks. This next week we're going to do all kinds of tests on it to see what it can hold and where some potential weak points or break points could be, whether it be over here, over there, or on the bridge itself. All that being said, that wraps up this week of building Cato Nemoidia. I'm so happy with the progress that was made. I can't tell you guys how excited I am to finally be able to start working on the city and not have to just do a bunch of rock work and pad work every single week. But enough talking, it's time to go hit the outro. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this week of building K-Tow Nemoidia. I feel like this was a big success. This was a big milestone to get those 2 pads finished enough that I can really start working on the city. I'm probably going to still do rock work, but at a much slower pace. And I may not, I may have some weeks where I don't work on it at all as I'm working on the city more. Next week is going to be really exciting because I set myself up pretty nicely to where I can really start to stress test and test the cables and the city for how much weight it can hold. So that's what I'm going to be doing next week. So you guys will get to see firsthand with me how much this mall can take before it starts to break or move or tip or crack or any of that kind of stuff. So it should be a pretty interesting week. The only time I've really done something like this, testing weight and load bearing stuff, is when I built that giant platform on Utapao that held the ATTE. This is obviously going to be much more complicated than that. I'm holding up an entire city this time. So should make for a pretty interesting update. If you like this video, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, or ideas, feel free to let me know down below in the comment section. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future content. But until next time, happy building.